there have been 3 of these ejections with the sticky stuff. And the interesting part of it is that Phil Cuzzi is the one that has ejected all 3 of those players. So that's the interesting thing, that all 3 of those players have been ejected by the same umpire. I'm not sticking up, I'm not being biased, but the thing of it is this. Now, the rule states if Max Scherzer were to appeal the suspension, which he took that away, he will not appeal it. Here's the deal. The Mets, if Scherzer cannot win his appeal, the Mets are not allowed to call a player up to the Major League roster. Therefore, he is gone for 10 days. He's cost himself about $2.3 million, if I'm not mistaken. He's out for 10 days and trying to figure out what to do with their pitching staff. Now, they're still winning games. They're 13-7. They won again last night against the Giants. They're 6-1 on this West Coast road trip. They swept the A's. They won 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. And they won the first game against the Giants, or Mets West, as we like to call them, having Wilmer Flores, Michael Conforto, and J.D. Davis all in that same lineup, which is just wild that all 3 of them are on that same team. Now, here's the thing. If it was sweat and rosin, apparently the rule states you need to only have, I think you're allowed to have a certain amount of rosin, but also the rule states if you're using rosin, you're only allowed to use the rosin while on the mound. Now, Scherzer made a statement yesterday saying he dropped the appeal because he thought when he was going to go to an arbitrator, it was going to be a mutual arbitrator. There wasn't going to be any favoritism towards anything. It turns out it was going to be an MLB arbitrator. Therefore, he knew he was going to lose the case. Look, Domingo German had the same issue earlier in the year. They didn't toss him. They gave him a warning. I'm just trying to figure out, because he used alcohol instead of water for his hands, because the thing is with alcohol, when you use that to wash your hands, it basically takes off the rosin and it doesn't leave any sort of moisture or anything like that left from the rosin. It gets rid of it. But the alcohol, of course, makes your hands sticky. If that is the case, then, of course, Scherzer has a right to be kicked out. Now, here's the reality of it. With the way the New York Mets are right now with their pitching staff, they can't afford to lose Scherzer for the next 10 days. They're losing him for 2 starts. Verlander's out. Carrasco's got an elbow issue. Peterson can't pitch at all lately. Senga hasn't looked great lately. They got Joey Lucchesi pitching tonight. The Mets starting pitching is a mess. But yet, here they are still winning games. That's the impressive thing. They're 13-7. I had them at, speedy remembrance, I believe when we did our predictions a couple weeks ago, I had them, I believe, at around 85 wins and a wild card spot. They're 13-7 now. So we'll see what happens in regards to how this is handled. I think MLB needs to figure out what is allowed and what's not. Because here's the truth. If it feels sticky, but if it is sweat and rosin, you can't toss a player out because it's a legal substance you're using. It's not spider tack or any of that. You can't just toss a player out because he said, oh, the hands felt sticky. It was the stickiest it ever felt, which, by the way, when you hear that statement, it sounds absolutely gross. It was the stickiest hand I ever felt. I was just laughing my tail off when I heard that statement. But the reality is this. MLB needs to figure out how to fix this rule. Because if it was sweat and rosin, then Scherzer should not have been tossed. It's that simple. He shouldn't have been tossed. He even got a new glove and everything, and they still said no. Now, maybe it was also because Scherzer was maybe arguing. I mean, I just feel like when you swear on your kids' lives, I think you got to take that into account. But the reality is this. The Mets need to figure out what is it with what you can use and what you can't. Because, again, he's using rosin. It's 100 degrees out that day in LA. What do you want him to do? You make this statement. The MLB's got to find a way to figure this out fast and quick because Phil Cuzzi's the only one that's ejected everybody. He's ejected all 3 pitchers that have been tossed. It's only been him. So it's no coincidence. We'll see how MLB goes about this. Clearly, the suspension is being handed down. We'll see how Scherzer does in his next start, if that makes any difference.